Hey, hey, hey. Happy Sunday evening. Hello, Crystal. Happy Sunday evening to you. Happy to see you in the comments. I hope you are doing well. Happy Sunday. Thanks for being here. All right. Hi, Sadiq. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. All right. Linda. Oh, hello, husband. Hi, Elle. Happy Sunday. Roslyn. Happy to see y'all. Thank you, Crystal. Hi, Geraldine. Happy Sunday evening. Hope you all have had a good day. It was a beautiful day here. WLJ, happy Sunday. I didn't get outside much today, but I did get outside. Yesterday was pretty here too. And I actually went for a nice walk yesterday. So I intended to do that today, but didn't follow through. Tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. All right, let me do my intro and then we can get started. So my name is Jewel Pearson. As I introduce myself, I share that I built a fancy tiny house in 2015. Voila. Because I don't believe you have to give up luxury to go tiny. And since that time, I have shared my journey to inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in their tiny house journey, and you'll be able to find the links to schedule with me in the video description when this goes live. And as I'm doing that, I serve up a lot of representation in the movement along the way. I want us to see ourselves and be part of this movement, and that is what I do. And so if you find this video helpful, Crystal already gave us the intro. If you find this video helpful, I hope you will like it. You'll share it. You'll subscribe to the channel. If you aren't already, you can do that right now. Subscribe to the channel and then turn on the notification so that you'll know when content is available here. So happy Sunday, y'all. Crystal is asking how I'm liking SteamYard. It's got some goods and some bad. Well, I won't say bads. It's it's less customization. It has some bonuses, stuff that's already built in and easy to set up, but the less customization is also a challenge. I missed some of the things from eCam, so we'll see. I got this for a year, so we will see. Thank you. Hello, Rachel, Cynthia. Hi, Lena. Happy Sunday. Oh, I'm glad y'all got rain in Los Angeles. Very, very good. That is good to hear. I hope that is very helpful. All right. It has been the longest short week ever. A lot going on this week. Roller coaster ride, all of the things, but we already knew that was going to be the case, and we've been preparing for this, so we aren't surprised, and we aren't reacting. We've been practicing holding on to our joy really tight. Hi, JW. We have been practicing watching what we are taking into our mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, all of the things. Hello, Kenyatta. Welcome. That's a new name. Welcome. So we were prepared, and we will be prepared to ride this on out. We will have to regroup. Linda's asking, am I all right? Why are you asking, am I all right? Do I not look all right? We know but thank you. Yes, I'm fine. And that was just asking in general, other than do I look like something's wrong? We're prepared for this. We are being in community. We are checking on each other. Oh, thank you, Crystal. We are practicing our meditation, whatever our spiritual practice looks like, whatever our self-care practice looks like. We are doing all of those things to take care of ourselves, take care of our mental health, because this is going to be. We talked about this in one of the lives. It's not checkers, it's chess. It's a long game, and so we are doing the things to be prepared for this long game. If we panic right now or take so much in that we make ourselves ill or just mentally overwhelmed, then we won't last the long game. And so we know not to do that. And so that is important to us. That's important as a community. That's why you need community. So when you get a little weary, you can lean on somebody else. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're practicing. So we're staying focused on the big picture. We're staying focused on ourselves. We're staying focused on our people. We're looking out for ourselves. We're looking out for our people. And we'll get through all of this. And it's going to be bumpy. It's going to be some deep dives. It's it's a shit show. But we're going to be okay. I'm removing the word resilient out of my vocabulary for the most part because I think people overuse resilient and don't really care about folks, or take the time to care about folks. So when you feel like somebody's resilient, you don't check on them and understand that they still need caring about. So that's one of my challenges with resilient. That's a word that I often hear for me. And sometimes you need somebody to check in on you. But we are resilient. Our ancestors had grit. Our ancestors prevailed. And that is what we have in our DNA. And so we can do hard things. And this is going to be some hard things. But we're going to be smart enough to stay focused on our practices. We're going to be smart enough to, with the chess game, we are looking ahead. We are focused on what we need to do to keep ourselves whole. We are doing the things like downsizing, decluttering, making sure our spaces are places of healing so that we have that place to go to take care of ourselves. So that's what we've been talking about for the last few weeks. So we're focused on doing the right thing. Y'all, I have a little I'm still not in the other part of the house, so I've using my desk in here, and I had to buy another little stool here. And the hydraulics in the stool are very new, and I have to kind of basically jump up here to get on it. So I was getting ready to try to adjust it, but I'm not going to do that on camera. I will not do that on camera. We're just going to deal with it as it is. Absolutely. WLJ said we are going to be strategic. It is chess, not checkers. Absolutely. We are going to be strategic. And we are going to really have to care for each other. There are some changes that happen that impact our the DE&I stuff, even though we know white women benefit from that most of all. But we know that with some of the businesses taking the easy route and acquiescing, that impacts some of our creators and folks in the retail spaces. And so we're listening and figuring out how to support correctly. So we got to do all the things. We are, yes, also glad they got rain. We are protecting our peace. We are holding on tight to our joy, and we are going to be just fine. This ain't the worst, and we know it. It'll get worse before it gets better, and we'll just have to ride it out and take care of each other. One of the things that this as Rosalind helped me the other week, this new error, ERROR, as we are seeing the change and know that we know the underlying current for the change and the impact that it will have on marginalized communities. One of the things that this is calling for is for us to be in order, to have our things in order. And so I know I saw a lot of folks scrambling over the week. They've been scrambling for the last few weeks as this was coming into place, leaving the U.S. That's a call. A lot of people feel called to do that. Rashida and Stephanie, you all are familiar with the Exodus Summit. They've been on the channel. That's a lot of the work that they're doing, helping Black women leave the U.S. Even if folks don't want to leave the U.S., that's not everybody's journey. Putting ourselves in a position so that we are lighter, more nimble, able to make moves quicker, because that's going to be necessary for us to stay focused. And that's why we've been talking about downsizing and decluttering. Again, even if it's not your desire to live small, it decluttering and downsizing. We've talked about the benefits overall, from a mental perspective, from a physical perspective, an emotional perspective. So that's a big piece of our strategy, so that we can make sure that we're in the place, in the proper place to make moves as we need to. If you've got a lot of overhead, and physical overhead, that makes moving nimbly more difficult. And so that is a big piece of what we should be focusing on. It's what we in the Patreon community, as we've focused on our accountability groups, some of the folks in there are working on their downsizing and decluttering. And so that is important. And so as folks are thinking about that, they're also thinking about housing. I've seen a lot of conversation around downsizing as it relates to housing. And I wanted to be able to support that. I haven't offered a live course in a while. And so I put together a tiny house challenge. And so it is a 4-week challenge. It will, the last time I've offered it was in 2022. And so I have been off of my game. So my apologies. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you in my Rakim, Eric B. Rakim voices. I put together a Tiny House channel challenge. It will launch on Monday, February the 10th. It is, like I said, a 4-week challenge. And so each Monday, participants will get a video and some supporting worksheets to help them move through the content. And so, hey, Pat, welcome, welcome. So with the challenge, you get a short video on Mondays, worksheets to accompany that video to help you with resources, with the information provided in the videos. And so there are 3 tiers I'm offering to the workshop, and I'm going to there are 3 tiers to the challenge. I'm going to drop the URL in the comments. The challenge has 3 tiers. There's a basic tier that gets access to the videos and the worksheets and resources that'll be provided each Monday for you to work through. And then there is a premium tier that gets the same access that I just mentioned for the basic access. It is the videos and worksheets and resources. And then with that premium, you also get access to live Q&A at the end of the 4 weeks as you work through. So you can ask questions along the way, but at the end of the 4 weeks, there will be a live Q&A session so that everybody can participate. If there are additional questions that we need to have that we should discuss, we'll be doing that. So you'll have an opportunity for live Q&A with the premium access. And then there is a VIP package. And so the VIP package gets the videos, the resources, that live Q&A session, and then they also get a 30-minute one-on-one feedback session, additional questions, a one-on-one session with me is part of the VIP package. And so I dropped the link. Again, it is a 4-week challenge. It covers everything Tiny House from A to Z, the how to get started, design, the basics that you need to know, financing, the build process, working with the builder. A lot of it is focused for tiny houses on wheels, but there'll also be some points for tiny houses on foundation. Y'all know my focus is on wheels. Thank you. Thank y'all. But there will be some information for on foundation. And then I lost my train of thought. I was covering what all is in the challenge. Design, systems. We'll talk about placement because the 2 bigger points for challenges for tiny houses is financing. I do have someone on board now who offers financing. So there are financing options, and there are someone that I'm working with that offers financing. So I have someone on board for that. And then placement, where will I put the tiny house? And so we will cover that as well. So it's everything from A to Z over 4 weeks. You get a video, a recorded video from me, information covering a certain set of topics, and it will be broken down so that it's information that you can digest basically, and then resources and worksheets, and also access to a community. So, and you'll have lifetime access to the content. So if you get the basic package, you'll have lifetime access to the videos and your worksheets, obviously. If you do the premium package, you'll have lifetime access to the videos, your worksheets, and then that live Q&A session. And then again, the VIP is the videos, the worksheets, and then a one-on-one 30-minute session with me. And so I am hoping that this will be something that will support people who are panicked and trying to figure out. So a tiny house offers quicker access to home ownership. We know that. I talk about that all the time. It offers an opportunity for wealth building, non-traditional wealth building. It is not the equity in a house, but it still offers the opportunity for non-traditional wealth building, saving money, investing in other ways so that you're growing your money because your expenses are less. And then for someone who wants to be nimble, be able to move a bit quicker, that's also an option. And I've shared with you all for the last over a year that my tiny house is absolutely saving my life from a financial standpoint. And that's important to have a foundation, that a home that offers you the opportunity to provide some ease. And that is one of the big things for me. As we talk about people that are interested in leaving the country, leaving the US, I at this point don't say that I or am interested in leaving full time. I will absolutely, you all know, travel is my thing. I My intention was to already have been in Mexico to get my residency. Finances have I shared the long-term disability abruptly ending, so that kind of has impacted how I'm moving right now. But it is still my intent to do that because I feel like we need to have options, and that for me is an option that I want to have in my back pocket. But I will have my tiny house as my home base. This will always be home base. And when home base is able to offer you the home base is I'm able to have home base because the expenses aren't as a traditional mortgage or a large traditional housing. And so that for me is a big bonus because people that don't people want options. Again, it's about options. It's being as one of the things that I've identified as a new tagline is giving you the opportunity to be irresponsible. That is to be less responsible, irresponsible. I've always said that my intent on living small after my daughter was grown, so I'd have the opportunity to be irresponsible because I'd had to be so very responsible as a young single mother. And so that is the opportunity that my tiny house presents so that I'm not bogged down in a big mortgage. And so that is a beautiful bonus. WLJ is asking, what does establishing residency in Mexico look like for me? Mexico offers a residency called regularization. I think I'm saying that right. It doesn't require so many countries require with their residency. They have financial requirements. This regularization does not have financial requirements. It requires that you have visited Mexico at specific points. They've got some years that you needed to have visited Mexico, and there's a process that you go through once you've established that you did visit during those times, so that you can establish that you can then get residency in that way. And that's the way that I'm intending to do it. And I'm pretty sure it's a 2-year residency based on going through the regularization process. And I'm not exactly sure what the extension looks like from that, but 2 years is for me the option in my pocket, the opportunity to have, a backup plan options, and that's really important to me. Um, we've spoken about the importance of having your passport. I hope that everyone has that done. If you don't, get it done ASAP. Maybe even invest in the expedited option. I can't think of the word that it's called, but that's important. And I would encourage everyone to have that. And so that's what establishing residency looks like for me. Again, this being my home base, but having options. That's really important for me. And so, again, the Tiny House Challenge, the 4-week challenge is open to everyone. My Patreon folks, you will have an option for, if you're interested in participating, you'll have an option for a discount that I will announce tomorrow in the Patreon group. That is a Patreon perk that they get access to things that might not be open to some of the larger community, and they also get access to discounts. One of the things that I mentioned also is the lifetime access to the content, and also having community available to you within the challenge. So, um, Crystal looked it up and says it's 4 years. So you have to overstay your um, you go to Mexico, you get your temporary um, admittance into Mexico. I think it's like 8 days they give you, um, and then you overstay that, and then you overstay like the what I'm talking about is when you go, you present your passport, they stamp your passport. Your passport is you're provided a date on your passport that you're able to stay in Mexico till said date. You overstay that date, and then once you've overstayed that date, you're able to go through the regularization process to request um, residency. And it doesn't require, as the second part of what Crystal just entered, is it doesn't require the financial part of it. For example, Colombia is a Colombia. No, I'm thinking about Panama because y'all know Panama is my place as well. Um, Panama requires you have a certain financial status, and I think there are different levels to what is required. But right now, I'm not at those levels, and so for me, this gives me a route um, to somewhere that I'd consider living should I need to, and so that is why I'm going that route. Okay, Crystal, good job for May. All right. The Tiny House Challenge, the URL is dropped. Patreon folks, you have a discount I will announce in the Patreon community. The 3 tiers to the challenge of basic premium and VIP. And so I'm looking forward to the challenge. I haven't done it in a while. It's always a good time. It's a lot of information. Y'all know tiny houses are my love. The education piece of it is my love. So I enjoy um, sharing the challenge with folks. And so um, hoping that it's beneficial to everybody. Um, Crystal is saying Colombia getting the 25% tariff might not want Americans coming there. They'll be fine with us. Um, Colombians like the brown people, so they'll be fine with us. That's on them other folks. So I'm not worried about that. WJ, oh, you took the quiz, Exodus Summit quiz. Mexico came up as your place. Um, um, I took the quiz and Panama came up as my place. And so y'all know I have a great love for Panama. And I do agree that Panama is my place. Hello, Kim. Welcome, welcome. Panama is my place, as is now also San Miguel. That's for me the bonus that Panama has over San Miguel is the access to water, because that is big for me. But I love both of them. So my intention is hello. My intention is to be able to have access to all of the places, and strategically have access to, again, options. It is options that I want to have available. If they're out there and available to us, I feel like we should take them. Again, hello. One of the reasons for the tiny house challenge is I want people to be able to get themselves in um, a place of being lighter, a place of having options, a place of being able to play checkers and not chess. No, to play chess and not checkers. I caught myself on that one. And tiny houses present that. And I want to offer that. That is what I want to offer to the community. That's important to me, to help us be in strategic places of care, strategic places of self-care, strategic places of self-sufficiency. And that is um that is what we're doing. So the tiny house challenge, here's your link, your URL, starts February the 10th. So I hope you all will sign up and participate. Kim, we're playing chess, not checkers. So I am very outspoken as well. My gear is often speaking for me. I have a stare down contest every time I get gas with the guy who works behind the counter, who has his Make America Great hat, and he weirdly has one of those things in his car that looks like Trump is riding with him. I think that's weird as hell. Um, and I knew it was his car because he has the hat on every time I go in there. And I keep a jacket in the car just so when I go get gas, I can go in and make sure I have something. So we just stare at each other. He hasn't said anything to me, and I haven't said anything to him. But I don't intend to. Having said all of that, I do not intend to be arguing with those folks. That's not what we're doing. And I'm also I'm not intentionally putting myself in situations of danger. And so, Kim, you have to remember that. Be careful. So absolutely. Be very careful. I have shared for a long time how I move in these spaces because I am in rural spaces. And so we have to operate with caution. These folks are empowered, feeling empowered, and um, they have some power. They have law behind them now as law is being moved um, and changed in negative ways, in ways to support the live white supremacy. So we have to operate um, logically, safely, and protect ourselves. I talk a lot of junk, but I know when to and when not to, and we have to operate in ways for safety. Um, Thank you, V. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, what day and time will be the live Q&A? I haven't set the live Q&A yet. The last time I did the challenge, so Mondays is when you get the worksheet and your worksheet and resources in the video. The last time I did the challenge, I hosted the live Q&A on the Saturday after the last week. And so that will be the week of March the 3rd. So I'm looking at the calendar now. One, two, so that would be March the 8th if I do it that same way. I could possibly put a poll. Let me see. I think I'm just going to say March the 8th, that it would be the afternoon of March the 8th. And so I can add that to the information. Thanks for asking that question. It would most likely be Saturday, March the 8th. I possibly will poll the group to see. I could do the Friday. I would possibly poll the group to see if they prefer the 7th or the 8th, but I'm going to lean toward the 8th. So thank you for asking that question. Absolutely, Crystal. Absolutely. Let me see if there's some other questions. Would I move to Cali? I love Cali. My draw for Cali has always been that the ground moves a lot over there. Even though I have felt two small earthquakes on this side, one in Georgia and one here in Charlotte. So I mean, I know they happen everywhere. Y'all just have bigger ones and more of them. I don't know. I also have felt like it was that 3-hour time difference. Like it's just very far. Like it's a far plane ride to get from one coast to the other coast. Like with um a lot of the international places I'm considering, it's a quick ride from Miami. So it's not even as far as like California to some of those places. So um I don't know. I think I like to visit, but my intention is to be in a space where I can, as Stephanie would call it, bop around, and that includes different places in the U.S. Being able to stay in different cities to experience it. So that is my intention. I wouldn't necessarily want to live there. No, I wouldn't want to live there full time. Like Crystal said, California is very expensive. Um, and Rosalind is saying the same thing. The the earthquakes. But I love it to visit. It's a beautiful place to visit. The culture, the spaces for Black and Brown folks bring me joy. One of the times that I was there in San Francisco for work, a few years back, there had been an earthquake, not in California, but somewhere close by. I can't remember exactly where it was, but wherever said earthquake was, um, it prompted a tsunami warning in in Cali. And so it was early in the morning and I was on the treadmill before I had to go in the office. And I got a tsunami warning on my phone. And when I tell you that was terrifying to me, when I looked down on my phone and saw a tsunami warning, I wish I had taken a screenshot of it, but I was so doggone panicked that I saw on my phone tsunami warning and surprised. It was just like I didn't know what to do, and I'm looking around and everybody's phone had gone off and nobody seemed to care but me. No, like I'm trying to figure out what am I supposed to do in a tsunami? I have no, I mean, I know what it is and I know how high the water is, but what am I supposed to do? Like this wasn't on my to-do list for today. And so nobody was bothered other than me. And I just remember like I was done. I was ready to go to the airport and go home. That's just like this is absolutely too much. So yeah, Cali's earthquakes and tsunami warnings are a bit much for me. Um so yeah. Um Dr. O is saying thoughts. I'm looking to relocate to Florida as a US home base. What I missed the what are you asking for thoughts on, Dr. O? Um what other questions? Let me see. If there's some questions about Kim is saying I don't have the money to move and travel, unfortunately. So unless God works a miracle, I will have to endure the fight and struggle. So Kim, I don't know your situation, but house sitting is something that Stephanie has house sitter school. One of the ways to travel and eliminate the the cost of housing. I do it where you're literally house sitting for somebody. Sometimes you're just sitting in the house. Sometimes you might be sitting the, they might have animals. It might be plant sitting. It could be dog, cat sitting, various animals sitting. And like I said, Stephanie has house sitter school. It is an option to consider that will help with travel. The housing piece of travel is often the most expensive piece, a part of the package, and so that's something that you might want to consider. It is for right now as we're thinking through these things, being shoot, I just lost my word. Being creative, that's not the word I had, but that's the best I have right now. Thinking outside of the box of ways to do to approach different things. That's what we need to be doing. Again, in the it's chess and not checkers, paying attention to other ways to get to things that don't necessarily involve money. At some points, if we think about our communities of old, bartering was big for communities of old. It wasn't always this capitalistic society in our communities because not everybody had money, so you knew who offered what service. You bartered services, um, food. Somebody had a garden. Somebody needed some things sown. So there, that is a lot of how we need to consider how we move about, because we're going to need each other in these times. So absolutely. That's right, Rosalind. Moving water tears my nerves up. It does. It does. So yeah. Mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Um, Jeanette is asking, when will you do another tiny house like event like you did in Charlotte? I want to see visit with builders as well as stay in a tiny house Airbnb. Okay, so two things about that event. I did the education part of it. The other part of it was not my doing. And I am not working with that group. Again, as I understand it, they are hosting another event. I'm not supporting it at all. I walked away from that event last year with harm that I have shared vocally. So I am not supporting that. If you see that event, I have nothing to do with it. If you choose to support it, so be it. That has nothing to do with me. I will be putting together workshops and educational sessions. Again, my role that was connected with that event was 3 days of workshops, and that was fabulous. My part was fabulous. I will be hosting an event like that again. And I um, just had a conversation with someone else about a tiny house event like what you're asking. That would include builders and houses. And so there is the possibility, but it wouldn't be in whatever year this is, 2025. I won't say that. If it is 2025, it would be very later in the year, like the September fall time, if that is to happen this year. So, long story short, an event that includes builders and houses. If a possibility for that would be later in the year, a possibility for that on a small scale is still in conversations for the DC area, but it would be it would be small scale because DC, like this, would be downtown DC, so it doesn't have the room and the space for multiple houses. But then the education piece of it is something that is in the work. So I know that was a long answer, sorry. But I hope I answered your question. Absolutely. That's exactly what I was saying. We have to rely on community and being creative to figure out how to move efficiently. Absolutely. Okay, so Dr. O is asking, is Florida a good place for tiny homes? So there is a community. There are a couple of communities in Florida. One I don't recommend. Even though I haven't visited in many years. Somebody was trying to say it had improved. It had improved. I'd have to see it with my own eyes to believe that. Jinky Eccles, Braveheart Properties has a tiny house community in Florida. Her community hosts Tiny Houses on Wheels as well as Foundation. It has some houses and people can bring their houses. That is a community I support in that area. There are pockets of tiny house communities in Florida. Florida is not necessarily tiny house friendly, but they're a little friendlier than North Carolina. Then there are a lot of RV parks that will allow tiny houses on wheels. So it is, I would probably say the same for the East Coast, if not a little bit better for as a good place for tiny houses again. But there are some options like Jinky's community. I think conversations that I've had around tiny houses for areas like a Florida or areas like a New Orleans that deal. I mean, North Carolina, we deal with them as well. Hurricanes, not as much as they do I won't say that. We don't get the brunt of it like they do. Like they're generally coming in that way and then they get the brunt of it. I think a tiny house is a good option for those areas if you have a plan for, because with the hurricane, obviously you get the heads up that it's coming. That's the beauty of a hurricane. There's some warning that it's coming, and the warning happens days in advance. So a tiny house on wheels offers the flexibility to move, and I think that's important. I think it's important to, like, as I've thought about um, New Orleans, and I had this conversation with Dominique Moody, who's fabulous, who's my good friend and who has a fabulous tiny house. We were thinking about the people in New Orleans who always are rebuilding and never, especially the the lower income parts of New Orleans. When New Orleans has to rebuild, it's always the touristy areas that seem to do well, and the other folks are left in the lurch. She and I were talking one time about how they would benefit from tiny houses on wheels, um, instead of continuing to rebuild places that are going to be impacted. But there would have to be the strategic plan of having money set aside to move the tiny house out, as well as having places that you um, can take the tiny house. So, for example, I know a lot of times when people are leaving New Orleans, they're going like to Baton Rouge, or they're going, kind of up. So they go up to Baton Rouge, or they go into Houston. And sometimes they come into, like the South Carolina, North Carolina area, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. So having an evacuation route, like you see the signs, having an evacuation plan for a tiny house in Florida and New Orleans would be necessary, as well as saving the money to be able to do that. I think tiny houses in those areas is a good idea. Absolutely. To downsize, to live with us, to live on a broken shoestring budget for a time to get what you want. That is so much of what people do with tiny houses. Like, it's not always the end game for them, but it allows them financially to stack their papers and save money to do things in cash. And that's a lot of time what people will use tiny houses for. That's smart and strategic. That wasn't the case for me, because this is my house. This is my, my long game retirement plan. That's a good idea, Crystal. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree, Crystal. Um Rosin said I'm so diplomatic. What did I what did I say? That was diplomatic. Rosin, you know better. I'm diplomatic because I don't want my channel to to get impacted. Um, I can't remember what you're talking about. I see Crystal saying the same. Oh, I know what you're talking about. When I talking about that event. Um I try real hard. I have shared with all of y'all that I like to cuss. And I do a good job of it. My cousin, I think I shared the story when my mother learned that I could cuss like a sailor at about age 17. Once she knew, I was good. So I don't care about anybody else as long as she knew. So I have perfected my cussing game, and she has asked me why I like to cuss. I don't cuss around her. I'm not disrespectful, but um she knows I do. And she might hear a few of them, but I don't purposely curse around her. But she asked me why I like to curse, and I told her it was like putting hot sauce on some food. Like sometimes you just need that extra to get your point across, to spice it up. So I I have some choice words that I could share, but I did do it diplomatically. So thank you very much for recognizing that I did that. As Crystal said, it was some dirty work. Absolutely. But I've healed for the most part. But I will not get thrown under the bus again. And I will be sure that one of the things that's important to me is my reputation. And because I try to operate from places of good, I hate when somebody misrepresents me or doesn't give me care and concern. And I was thrown under the bus in that scenario on some things that I was not responsible for at all. That was not my event. I did the workshops, and the workshops were absolutely fabulous. 3 days of fabulous workshops. And they were fabulous in spite of, because there were some things happening behind the scenes that could have taken me out with some poor planning. But because I am who I am, and because I planned events, I had some backup plans that served me well, that made sure, and I did the work up front. So my work was flawless. But I still ended up, because my name was the bigger name associated with said event, I ended up sending out some cease and desist letters where folks were trying to um sully my reputation on something that wasn't my thing. So I did do it diplomatically, but if y'all catch me outside, it might not it might not go down like that. um RH is asking, do I know of a good community in California? No, I don't know of a good community, but there are several cities in California that are tiny house friendly. California is leading the charge for tiny houses, and tiny houses on wheels specifically. So um, you can live in a tiny house on wheels in somebody's backyard as an ADU. They allow tiny houses as a primary residence. So in tiny houses on wheels, so you could actually put a tiny house on wheels on a piece of property, and they're okay with it, and as your primary residence. Like, you don't have to be there as an ADU. So California is leading the charge in that way, and so you have a lot more flexibility there. So just FYI, that's a bonus. um There's only, the question is, are there many mostly Black tiny house communities? So the tiny house movement overall, representation of Black folks in the community is, I think, maybe 2%, I think is what the numbers were. So it is a predominantly white movement. So there are not many mostly Black tiny home communities. And I'm speaking about tiny houses on wheels. So the answer to that is no. The first Black owned tiny house community is here in North Carolina, Deidre Cole, Poplar Creek tiny house community. So that is here in Rutherfordton, even though they don't say it that way. They Ruffton or something like that, they say. Which is, I think, if I can remember, an hour and a half from Charlotte. I think that's right. That is a Black owned tiny house community. So no, the answer to that is no, unfortunately. But we are growing in the movement. And so there is the opportunity for us to be here, and for us to be in community with each other. Again, that is why this challenge. So you said you're just starting to read about tiny houses. The challenge that I am just now dropping, the 4-week tiny house challenge, is very beneficial for someone in your um, someone that's just getting started with researching tiny houses. So as I shared, it is a 4-week challenge. I'm dropping the link in the comments. 4-week challenge. Every Monday, you get a short video with worksheets, resources to accompany the video. It starts Monday, February the 10th. There are 3 tiers to the challenge. There's a basic tier where you get access to the that video and the resources to accompany it. There is a premium tier where you get what you get in the basic, the video and the resources, but you'd also have access to a live Q&A session at the end of the challenge. And I'm saying right now that that's going to be the Saturday at the end of the 4-week challenge, after the last week, the Saturday of the last week. So you'd have access to that live Q&A session as the premium access. And then there is a VIP tier where you get everything I just mentioned, the videos, the resources, the live Q&A session, and you also get a one-on-one 30-minute session with me to cover any additional feedback that you might be interested in, getting any additional questions. Let's see. Let us see what other. Oh, Dominique as well. So Crystal asked, how is Dominique? I was concerned about her because she's in Cali. Thank you, Jeanette. Okay. Dominique, so wait a minute. Before I answer your question, as you all are saying, bring the event to different cities. It would be helpful to me if you know of a place in the city that would be a good location to host an event. So if you think about a tiny house event, it needs an area that you could, if it's going to be an event that showcases houses, it needs a location that can showcase houses. And so that's like a big parking lot of a location. If it's going to have workshops, it also needs to be like, so in Atlanta, one of the events was held at a school. So you had access to like the auditorium and the gymnasium to host sessions. And then outside in the parking lot, you had to have the houses and the outside event. So in your city, if you're interested in an event in your city, if you will message me, email me, missbohemiansoul@gmail, with your city information and recommendations of of a location, a venue that might be able to host an event. That would help me tremendously, because that takes out some of the legwork and helps me know that there is the opportunity in that city. So I'm interested in being in various places. So, but help me do some of that work. Or that sleuthing, I guess, is what I'm saying. I can't even imagine you cursing, Teresa. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia said the workshops were on point. The workshops were on point. Like is sometimes I don't take credit for stuff I do, but when I tell you the workshops were on point, 3 fabulous days. First day was local officials talking through changing the rules and regulations for tiny houses, answering their questions, helping them understand the benefits of tiny houses, with the types of people that live in tiny houses, and the reasons people want to live in tiny houses. And then, so that was the first day. And then the second day was for the mostly for the general public. Public could attend on Friday as well. And so it was everything from builders to the lifestyle to using tiny houses for folks aging out of foster care. Um, um, Booker spoke about his community in Atlanta. He was the keynote on Sunday. Dan Fitzpatrick was the keynote on Saturday, and he talked about the conversations, having the conversations with city officials and the change that needs to be made and how to have those conversations. There was so much education available from those workshops. And as I was preparing them, it was me saying, what is it that the content that I wish had been available to me as I was attending events in on the other side of a new person in the movement, or what would I have wanted to have available to me, before I even built, as I was in that research phase. And so that is what I put together. Absolutely, Teresa. And so they were fabulous. And that is what I put into all of my workshops. Crystal, I think, can vouch for me on that. Crystal attended my very first workshop in, I don't remember what year it was. It was in DC. And I approach my workshops from, what is it that I wish had been available to me in the educational process regarding tiny houses, not just the building of a house, but how the house changes you, the things that you need to be aware of from a perspective of big change. Personally, um, overall. And that is how I put together my content and what I share. So to me, it's bigger than just, as I've always said, it's bigger than just the tiny house. And so that heads up, and that will also be the way the challenge goes. WLJ is asking, which do you think is more cost effective, stick built or container homes? The answer is going to be depend. It's going to depend on a lot of variables. So the way the market is, the price of wood, the price of a container, there's so much fluctuation. It's also going to depend on location. Um, it's one of those things that you kind of have to do the research at that specific time to compare the pricing. It could be about the same. If containers are scarce, if there's like a run on people buying containers, then that's going to raise the price of a container, and then that's got to be factored in. So sometimes, I don't want to say generally, a lot of the times a container home is going to be the cheaper route to go, because it's the structure is already available, and you are reconfiguring an established structure. So oftentimes a container home is going to be cheaper, but that is not always going to be the case. So yeah, you really have to do a comparison at that particular time. Thank you, Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. In California, everywhere is good to live tiny. The smallest we can go is 420 square feet in LA County if it's not an ADU. All right. Good information. Thank you. And if you're interested in a tiny house on foundation, and again, some of that will be addressed in the challenge. If you're interested in a tiny house on foundation, unless a city has a minimum square footage requirement, you could build a tiny house on foundation. If the city does not have a square footage minimum requirement, and that would be you calling to, because remember, the rules are made at the city and county level. And so that would be you calling to building code enforcement, to zoning, to understand, and those are two separate departments, to understand what the requirements are. And building code enforcement would be the ones to tell you about the square footage minimums. Let's see. Very welcome, JW. Very welcome. Yes, the Black-owned tiny house community in Georgia, but that's the one on foundation. That's Booker's community. That's on foundation. The one that I mentioned here in North Carolina is for tiny houses on wheels. Yep, that's exactly who I'm talking about. So I had him as a speaker, the keynote on Sunday at the event, Booker T. Washington. He is in process of completing his second community, but his communities are for tiny houses on foundation. Um, Rosalind is saying there's legislation in this session in Georgia for tiny houses. On wheels or on foundation? That's good. What is that, on wheels or foundation? Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can't remember what year that was. Maybe it was 2017 that I had my first workshop. Teresa is asking, have I ever thought about working with a vocational college HBCU to do small bills as part of their curriculum? It is on my dream list to work with HBCUs regarding tiny houses. So from my mouth to God's ears, that is on my dream list. I'm looking for my list that I was writing up. Let's see if I can find it right here. It's in this notebook that's right here beside me. I have colleges, HBCUs. I would love to have conversations with those young folks before they get out and get sucked into the American dream that ain't for them, to talk about living simply and smaller and environmentally sustainable housing. So absolutely, would love to do that. And I'm open to connections. If somebody has them, I would love to get in the circuit. Very nice. So Crystal, so normally I say, Crystal is saying don't give info when you're calling the city. I say that all the time for tiny houses on wheels. But if you're building on foundation, you're going to have to go through their process so you can be a little more open, because if you're doing on foundation, you can't build a house on foundation without their input. So yes, that is a good point if you're doing something with tiny houses on wheels. Yes, Booker's community is micro houses between 600 to 750 square feet. The people always complain about the prices of his community. They are accurate for houses of his size, houses on foundation. Folks have to consider that. Kim is cracking up because I saw her comment about Booker T a few minutes ago, and I knew she didn't know who y'all were talking about. It's okay, Kim. I had chuckled in my head. Kim is caught up now. Thank you, Teresa. I would appreciate that. Oh, really? Fisk University, Rosin is saying, has beautiful shipping container, tiny house dormitories. That's beautiful. I need to go visit that. Kim, I am cracking up at you, and I saw you talking about Booker T. I was giggling inside. All right. Good people. Thank y'all for coming this evening. I was still working on my stuff for the challenge, and I knew I wanted to announce it. I also needed to do something with Don King. So my hair is still wet because Don King has been Don Kinging. So if Don King is not here one day and I'm back to bald, don't y'all be surprised. I'll just have to work it out with my Aunt Mary, who is bothered by me being bald, but hair is overrated. What else y'all got? I'm going to I hope to see some of y'all in the challenge. Patreon folks, remember, if you're interested in the challenge, you will get a discount. I'll drop that information tomorrow. Starts February the 10th. It is part of the planning. It is part of the playing chess, not checkers. It is putting ourselves in places to be able to move quickly, to be able to move nimbly, putting ourselves in places that we're taking care of ourselves so that we can be good. We can be good as a community. Thank you, Kim. Like the video, please. I'll wait for you to do it. Like the video. I need to grow my channel. I shared my my disability quit on me unexpectedly, abruptly, and y'all know I'm not really trying to go back to them folks' places of business. I need to grow my channel support. So it is my calling to pour into my community. Tiny houses are my thing. It is the as Teresa said, it is the knowledge that just rolls off of my tongue. It is the thing that I feel so strongly about because I know the benefit for that I'm realizing as living in a tiny house, having built my tiny house. And I want that for my community. I feel like tiny houses offer so much of the salve that our community needs to save itself. Being able to get to home ownership quicker, opportunity for wealth building. And so that is what I do. That is why, thank you. That is why I pour into my community because I support y'all and you all support me. So I am imploring you all to continue that support so that I can do what I do here to help you all as I can. So if you are interested in the challenge, please sign up. Please share the challenge link with folks that you know are interested in tiny houses. And again, there will be some information on wheels, on foundation. It will be some information on downsizing, information for not just someone interested as a tiny house dweller, but hi Sophia. Sophia. Um, from the placement perspective, folks who have land and are interested in supporting the movement. So um, please share a quick share. As you comment, that tells YouTube that whatever I'm talking about, people are interested in it. Thank you. And that helps me. That helps me from the YouTube perspective. So thank y'all much. Thank you, Crystal. Thank y'all. Have a great week. Remember what we're doing. We are playing chess, not checkers. We are holding on tight to our joy. We are protecting our peace. We are not letting others' chaos impact our personal peace. And we are taking care of ourselves in all the ways, mentally, physically, emotionally. And there's some more. I went over those last week. We are looking into ways to play the long game and sustain ourselves, and we are doing the things to sustain ourselves. So don't forget that. Love you too, Crystal. Don't forget that. That's what we're doing. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. As my granddaddy used to say, is God, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I think that's what he used to say. Have a great week. Take care, and be safe.